Create a class is the foundation of the Call of Duty formula. It defines your playstyle, tactics, and sets your moment-to-moment goals for each match. In this series, we're going to be searching for the best combinations of weapons, attachments, perks, and equipment so that each play session can be improved. We'll learn about weapons and combinations of things. It'll be fun. Sometimes it's going to be exploratory, such as this episode, the first episode of this for Modern Warfare 3, where we're going to look at what it would be like to make a totally obsessed stealth loadout. That's right, today we're going to be making a naked eye class. What does that mean? We're going to make you invisible to everything except your enemy's naked eye. Modern Warfare 3 is full of ways to spot and find people through UI elements, and I want to hide you from that as much as possible so you don't have to worry about it anymore. So this was going to be a very basic video, and then I decided to take it a step further and go for something a little bit more niche, and then I found something even more niche. Both of those kind of sucked, and I found something that actually is pretty efficient and is competitive, and then I was immensely disappointed with the results after that. This video is going to be pretty depressing to record for several reasons. At first, the weapon in this loadout was going to be whatever you want with a suppressor, and then I decided I wanted to go into the Modern Warfare 2 guns because I remembered that some of them have a secret modifier or a sort of description-based modifier where they don't leave any tracers or skulls behind. Now, the vest we're using, the assassin vest, is going to keep skulls from appearing over the people we kill, but the lack of tracers intrigued me because I've spotted enemies because they're firing a suppressed weapon and there's still tracers flying out of the barrel and I can see the direction in which those are coming from. If you can completely hide those and replace them with sort of minute, hard to see vapor trails, then, well, why not do it? If we're going full send with as much stealth as possible, we should go into the MWIII guns. And the only two guns I could think of at the time were the ISO Hemlock and the AUG 9mm. Starting with the AUG 9mm, this was interesting, but it felt bad. It is a mediocre 5-shot SMG with 32 rounds of ammunition. It was okay. Like, this was all right, but it just wasn't doing it for me. I'm not that much of an SMG guy, and I'm really not into using a mediocre SMG at that. The ISO Hemlock was the next option, and during my live stream I found out that it had this weird modification if you put the blackout rounds on it, which hide the vapor trails, and combine that with an integrally suppressed barrel, you remove the problem with subsonic ammo types. Okay. So for some reason, okay, this is interesting. You go up, if you combine the blackout rounds with the integrally suppressed barrel, you get a rate of fire increase and plus 100% to your bullet velocity.
That's interesting.
But it destroys your horizontal recoil control. The AUG 9mm, the P890 handgun, the ISO with blackout rounds have incredibly low bullet velocities, but on the ISO, the blackout rounds, of course, lower your bullet velocity because it's subsonic ammunition, but the integral suppressor doubles your bullet velocity. It's incredible. And you even get a little bit of a fire rate boost. The blackout rounds lower your fire rate, the barrel brings it back up somehow, and it works, but you're still using a mediocre assault rifle with a good amount of recoil and not a really great time to kill. The blackout rounds were never really good in MW2, and I hate to tell you, they're not really any better here. But then during my live stream, I discovered the M13C fires blackout rounds by default, which saves me an attachment slot, and has a good rate of fire, good handling, good iron sights, and a semi-decent time to kill. It's a 4 to 5 shot killing gun with a weird added bonus. The M13C has higher than average flinch for assault rifles, and with overpressurized blackout rounds, you're doing 2.2 newtons of target flinch, which is interesting because most other weapons, even with overpressurized, only go up to like 1.8, 1.9. This is 2.2. This is reaching almost LMG levels of flinch. So we're dealing above average flinch. We have decent bullet velocity. We don't have to waste an attachment on blackout rounds. We have a higher rate of fire. We can have a 45 round magazine. Like, what's the catch here? Well, you probably have two questions. What's the catch, and why aren't you using the Honey Badger or the Chimera? The reason I'm not using the Chimera is because it just sucks. Its recoil is so high. Its shots to kill aren't great. Its bullet velocity aren't great. It's not good to use. It's not fun to use. I had no enjoyment trying to use the Honey Badger in MWIII multiplayer. On top of that, the only way to make it competitive range and bullet velocity wise is by putting on a normal barrel and then adding a suppressor to that instead of using the built-in integrally suppressed barrel. So no, it wasn't worth it. I know it fires blackout rounds, but it still just wasn't worth it. It bobs and kicks too much. It's basically just a bad, slow TTK SMG. That's also heavy. So the M13C would have been perfect, and with my attachment combination, it was really close. I was using the Colossus suppressor, the 14-inch Bruin Echelon barrel, the Bruin heavy support grip, the Bruin R90 factory stock, and a 45-round mag. And then I was interchanging the stock and overpressurized rounds, and sometimes playing around with an optic. It was okay. Life was good, but I knew from my first match with it that I was gonna have problems, and boy did I. You are unfortunately still dealing with a weapon that has below average bullet velocity, high recoil, and not exactly amazing damage. In an ideal mid-range scenario in which you don't miss any shots, the time to kill is perfectly competitive, and the added flinch that the M13C is throwing out is noticeable in gunfights, especially if you're fighting a sniper. You can completely throw a sniper off your trail with this weapon, especially with overpressurized rounds. But at the end of the day, it wasn't very competitive. We'll get more into that in a second. For the rest of the loadout, we have whatever suppressed pistol you want. If you want a no tracer pistol, you can use the P890, but I warn you, the P890 just does not feel good in MW3 compared to MW2. The rate of fire is too slow, there are better handguns, it's not doing a ton of damage, and its bullet velocity is ass. So I would not recommend it, but it is something you could do if you wanted. So really just use a pistol you're comfortable with a suppressor on it, and that's gonna be good enough. It's just a backup weapon, so who cares? The rest of the loadout is simple. We use a stim because we're not throwing around smoke grenades and concussions and flashbangs. We want to be stealthy, and when you're stealthy, you might get on a flank and be overwhelmed because you flanked too many enemies or you're in their spawn, and you need the ability to run away and heal behind some cover. So the stim is basically I have gotten myself in deep shit, and I'm going to evade gunfire, heal, and then reattack from a different angle, because a lot of this is about repositioning. Then we have a throwing knife. The throwing knife is plain and simple just for meleeing people. You can use it for actual throwing knife kills, but I don't recommend it. You don't want to waste your throwing knife. You want to be able to stab people in close quarters. We're using the assassin vest, so you're not going to drop any enemy skulls and your kills will be completely silent. And people getting into a close nose-to-nose gunfight with somebody that has an AR as big as the M13C, they're not going to expect you to just one-tap melee them. So use it to your advantage. You hear somebody coming around a corner, go ahead, give them a good old stabbing. For gloves, I would normally use anything but these, but we're kind of doing a full send. It's a little bit of a novelty loadout, so I put on commando gloves so we can run away while reloading, because this is about repositioning, right? So if I have to run away and heal, I can stim. If I have to run away and reload, I can do those two things at the same time. Then of course, we're trying to be as invisible as possible, so covert sneakers to not be detected by people that have the audacity to bring a headset. And the hijacked IFF strobe is our last piece of gear. And of course, this is just so that we don't get targeted by enemy AI streaks and thermals. It helps us out a little bit. It gives us a few less things to worry about being spotted by, and that's what this whole loadout's about. That's what I wanted to build for you guys. A loadout where you're not worried about getting sound horrored or spotted by a UAV. Before the assassin vest was added, this loadout would have been a lot less interesting, but now I think it's considerably more interesting to just be able to full send a full stealth loadout. And the depressing part of this video, guys, is that I wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't really matter. You can't really go full stealth in this game. Players are too alert and too aware. They're pre-firing, they're ready for you, they're doing callouts, they're jump shotting, you're getting slid into. That sounds awful. People are slide canceling around you. That's a better way to put it. Look, guys, I don't know how to explain this, but back in the day, if you weren't there, you won't know, but back in the day, Call of Duty played considerably different. Even when you could have unlimited sprint on your class, people were slower to get around the map, and people just weren't as sweaty back in the day. This was pre-esports and Twitch and pub stomping videos, and people weren't meta obsessed. So running a fully naked eye class back in like 2009 or 10, that was different. That was different. You really were a stealthy piece of shit in those games. But now you have a permanent red diamond above your head that you can't remove. Everybody has headphones, everybody's paying attention, everybody's using a meta loadout. And if you're like me and you have those really good pop-off games and you can really excel, sometimes your matchmaking is going to be all over the place. The likelihood of you getting into a lobby where you being as invisible as possible is actually going to matter is very low. You are much better off using a more competitive weapon and making a balanced loadout where you are invisible in some areas, but not in every area. This is a novelty concept, to just make yourself as invisible to the rest of the game as possible. Even using weaker non-meta weapons like the ISO Hemlock M13C, the Honey Badger, or the AUG 9mm, using those weapons just to reduce your visual footprint by removing your tracers, it's silly, but it's fun, and creative class should be a fun aspect of the game. I just wished I was using any other meta rifle ever, or any meta SMG. Tracers be damned. Being as invisible as possible is funny. It wasn't worth it. Firing subsonic ammo means that your bullets are slow. Using Modern Warfare 2 guns means that you have more visual recoil, and the weapons simply just aren't balanced for this meta. It sucks too, because finding out that the integral suppressor on the ISO combined with the blackout rounds actually does this weird thing where it rebuffs the gun, that's awesome. The AUG 9mm has a stock attachment, or I think a comb attachment, that allows you to carry more reserve ammo, which is great for going on streaks with a stealth loadout. And the M13C has higher than normal flinch when you shoot somebody. But those are novelties. Those are interesting, but maybe I'm just really bad at Call of Duty. I just wanted to use the MCW, or the M4, or the Holger 5.56, or the Striker, not the Striker 9. I think I succeeded in my attempt to min-max the amount of stealth on the loadout, including the fact that I used a P890, which is a really bad handgun in this game. I used that in order to even hide more tracers when I have to pull out a handgun, and I still just don't consider it worth it. There were a couple times that I got kills on people capping objectives or whatever, and nobody knew where to look for me after I got the kill. There were a couple times I would get a triple kill, and the fourth person that was nearby, the fourth enemy nearby, didn't have any idea where I started killing their buddies from because there's no tracer. My gun's suppressed. They're not hearing my footsteps. Their Overwatch helo in the air isn't shooting me. That's kind of a good feeling. But again, this isn't going to win you games and get you long streaks. It's just sort of a fun novelty, and fun novelties are just that. They're novel, they're fun, but efficient? It was not. So that's sort of the first episode of this. Kind of a weird note to end the first video in this series on, where I'm like, by the way, I tried this and it kind of blew. But I tried it and it kind of blew. But you live and you learn, and you've now lived and learned with me. In the next loadout video, I think we might go into, I don't know, up to you guys, a speed loadout or a camping loadout. Let me know down in the comment section below. I'll tally everybody's opinions up when I go to make the video, and I will either make a camping loadout or a maximum speed loadout. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I will see you when I see you. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing, and if you guys want to see my live streams where I figured this kind of stuff out, go ahead and hit the bell icon to get notified when I go live. And again, thank you guys so much for chilling. If you're still watching to this point in the video, reevaluate your life priorities. See ya. Goodbye.